Part 8 of the second number of Art in Australia, 1917. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. The Creator and the Parasite by Norman Lindsay. It is a peculiar fact that in art there is little profit in stealing inspiration from the movement of one's own generation, for a movement is nearly always the result of technical achievement, and its disciples cease to create in their efforts to copy. A man may arise who influences the artistic vision of his generation, but artists are well advised to leave his technique carefully alone. The zeal of the admirer is his own undoing. In his efforts to be somebody else, he ceases to be anybody at all, swallowed up, like a too insidious parasite, in the personality he battens on. Yet all great creators are great thieves. Only their cunning is vindicated in stealing what others discard or have not the ability to use. The big man of a generation is he who gathers together the failures of others and uses them with success. How many immature playwrights perished to make Shakespeare? One might almost think that the tentative efforts of the incompetent were made in order that genius might come along and use them. But alas, for those who come to life in the shadow of a master, they go to swell the grand army of the disgruntled, to pile a canvas or two more on that secret and undiscovered rubbish heap, the place where all the rotten books and pictures go to. It is true that there is a sort of uniformity of vision which is the distinguishing quality of a period, just as there is a sort of family likeness in its portraits, and a peculiar sameness in the way its trees grow. One is quite sure, for instance, that all 14th century women were not mere skin and bone, or that femininity in the 16th century ran to fat. It is hard to believe that each lady at the court of Charles II had a face like Lady Castlemaine, and that gentility among our grandmothers was evinced by a morbid passion for looking like Queen Victoria. There is a fashion of eyesight which makes artists of a period seek for certain generalized forms in all things, whether they be ladies' faces or the shape of cows. The swing of the pendulum that goes from crinolines to knee-skirts makes ladies' noses aquiline or retroussé as the fancy takes us. Such expressions of a popular taste, whether made by artists or only followed by them, are apart from the influence of an art movement. Habit produces sterility. Sterility seeks for the expression of fresher vision, rejecting the worn-out formulas of its generation and harking back to some older and newer theme. For a work of art or a point of view has only to be sufficiently old to become startlingly new, and it is the man whose gaze turns backward who resurrects the new thing and stands before his contemporaries in the character of a discoverer. Manet upsets the fossilized modernity of his period by going back to Velasquez, and even Bernard Shaw cuts his futurist antics a little way behind Plato and Aristophanes. In this latter relation, it may be said that of all mental states, the ultra-progressivist is the most stationary. It goes nowhere. It scorns the past, and the future will scorn it. What use are prognostications to the future that overtakes them? What use prophecies to a generation that will not live to see them discredited? The progressivist is annihilated by his own doctrine. If mankind fails to reach his ideal, what claim has he upon its gratitude? If mankind overtake it, how superior mankind will be to him, and that at least is a consummation no progressivist would welcome. Theories, philosophies, religions are as unstable as politics, and change to suit the economics of a community. Thought has no tradition, but is as unstable as the fashion of our hats. The tradition of life alone matters. One generation may find protection holy, and another seek salvation in free trade. But free trader and protectionist alike must go through life with the common stock of emotion. A sense of these alone they may perpetuate in art, but what they thought on fiscal matters will perish like the newspapers wherein they printed it. Since art is only the effect of human wisdom and the human passion for beauty, its appeal must be the same in all ages. Man is not the protean animal in spite of all that ever lived on peptonized food. Fox terriers may change from red to white in a century, but man is a fixed quantity, seeing always with the same eyes, suffering the same emotions, expressing himself with the same gestures, and living the same eternal mechanism that runs from birth to death. Therefore, the tradition of art is no other than the tradition of life. Every effort to escape it ends in preciousness and sterility. Every century has its tame rebels, its free versifiers and post-impressionists who seek in a maddened spirit of boredom to smash tradition and invent a new art. But to invent a new art one must invent a new humanity. One must seek a new planet where the creatures do not eat, work and sleep, love, hate and die like men, but exist hygienically beyond the reach of our conceptions. If one says that all great creators are great thieves, that is only to say that we all live and thrive on the exertions of 1,000,000 ancestors. For the tradition of art is maintained in an eternal reuse of its symbols, and the creator is he who is most impelled to assert his sense of life's recurrence. He is most truly modern inasmuch as he touches fingers with the creators of the Sphinx. Those who bear the legend modernity as a battle cry are only people who lack the historical sense. They exult in the theory that a live ass is better than a dead lion. Let that fallacy explode. There are no dead lions in art. Even their boasted modernity is only an illusion, for every man that ever lived was the modern of his generation. The truly modern mind is that which rejects the sense of modernity. Its interest is not in the new thing that happened last week, but in the old thing that happens every week. Who is quite so modern as that very bored and cultured gentleman who wrote Ecclesiastes, who, less modern than, say, the writer of the Philanderer? The one tells us the common things that come to all men in the hour of disillusion. The other fires off some uncommon social theories, excited by the Ibsen Club, and joins the dodo in extinction. One may rifle the past with impunity, for there one rifles the common stock of human knowledge. But beware, you who spoil the spoiler, for you thieve not his stolen goods, but only his manner of stealing them. You turn pirate only to be hanged, as a petty sneak thief. Masters of art, like masters of pirate ships, must steal in the grand manner, or fame and chapbook will have none of them. The creator plunders the centuries, but the imitator goes over the creator's backyard fence. He does not raise a song of his own, but joins in the chorus where others sing, and if the master renders the common tradition of art by some facile note of his own devising, the imitator finds his business greatly simplified. Somebody asked Phil May once what he thought of his imitators. For a moment the urbanity of that kindly soul deserted him. "I hate the blighters," he said, only blighters was not the word he used. But Phil might have spared himself a transitory annoyance. The imitator has already taken his place among the nonentities. His very ingenuity is the price of his individuality, for the closer he comes to his master, the further is he from any hope of fame. The legend of Homer grew from 100 dead cities. Who cares? The world has a great epic. Hamlet was only a rewritten play, but who would have heard of that but for Hamlet? Let the abortive have their consolation. They grub on in the earth, sweating and panting, but at least they turn up a stone or two that master hands may polish into jewels. But we can all spare a kick for the imitator, that smug fellow who comes along when the work is done and filches a comfortable living from it. Still, time supplies a remedy even for this nuisance. The smaller planets, too, suffer an attraction for the sun. But, swing they a little too far, there is a brief explosion, and a presumptuous satellite vanishes for ever. End of Part 8.